Okay, today's lesson is on chapter 11, lesson 5 on problem-solving plans. So we're going to learn the strategy of reasonable answers. And this is one of the most important problem-solving strategies that you guys can learn because it helps you understand whether your answer is correct or not. And it's a question you should be asking yourself all the time. So you're going to determine if the answers to the problems are reasonable or not. You should just be able to look at the number based on the problem and see, does that answer make sense, right? Is it reasonable? So after you solve a problem, you have to look back and decide, is it a reasonable answer or is it not? And if it's not, then you know that something went wrong or you did something wrong and you have to go back and fix it. If it is reasonable, then most likely you did something right and you don't need to worry about it and you can move on from there, right? So if you look at example number 1 on page 240, it says sometimes answers are unreasonable because the problem is misinterpreted. I think example number 1 is probably the most common mistake that I see 5th graders make, is the misinterpreted. Okay? And what does it mean by misinterpreted? What does misinterpreted mean?
When the people don't look at one word in a problem and they eventually don't understand the full sequence.
It's not a matter of sequence, but Naomi?
It's like reading a problem that you don't get, and then you're like, well, there's this number, and then there's this number, I'm just going to divide them, and then I can answer.
Right. So sometimes it's like you think it's a division problem, but it's actually not, right? Or you misinterpret what the problem's asking you to do. So it may tell you to get the sum, but you end up subtracting, right? So that's a misinterpretation. So if you look at the problem, Mr. Costa makes sandwiches for the class picnic. He buys 6.5 pounds of turkey and uses 1/4 pound in each sandwich. How many sandwiches can he make? Tanya says Mr. Costa can make 2 sandwiches. Okay? So Tanya thinks the answer is 2 sandwiches. That's what Tanya thinks. Okay? But let's look at the information that we have. We have 6.5 pounds of turkey. And for each sandwich, he wants to use 1/4 pound. Okay? So Tanya's saying, I can only make 2 sandwiches. Is that correct? No, her answer is unreasonable. Each sandwich is what? 1/4 of a pound. So if she made 2 sandwiches, how much is that?
2/4.
Well, you take 1/4 plus 1/4, and that would give you 2/4, which is equal to 1/2 pound. That's it. That's all you would have to use, right? Well, how much does Mr. Costa have, though? 6.5 pounds. Compare half to 6.5. How much more does he have to use? 6 more pounds, right? So does the answer of 2 sandwiches make any sense?
No.
No, it doesn't, right? So if we know that 2 does not make sense, and we know that our answer should be much greater than 2, Tanya did something wrong, okay? So you guys should always look at your answer and say, does it make sense? Here, she misinterpreted something, okay? I don't know what she misinterpreted, but she thought the answer was 2 sandwiches, which is not enough, right? You can make so much more than that. So let's take a look at example 2. Example 2 says, sometimes an answer doesn't make sense, okay? So there's a difference between misinterpretation and doesn't make sense, okay? So the second example is talking about not making sense. All right, so Allison made 5 3/4 cup of popcorn. Okay, so let's write that down. she gave 1 1/4 cups of popcorn to each of her friends. Each friend. Okay. How many friends received popcorn? So she thinks the answer is 4 3/5 friends. She thinks her answer should be 4 3/5 friends got popcorn.
No.
Okay? It's unreasonable. Why is this, does this answer just not even make any sense at all? Evan? Right. There's no such thing as 3/5 of a person, right? That would be kind of weird if you only saw 3/5 of a person walking around, right? Not a good sight to see. So, the answer just completely does not make sense, right? If she said 5 friends, right? If she didn't have enough, right, for a 5th friend, then what should she have said?
4.
4 friends, right? Not 4 3/5 of a friend, right? All right, let's look at example 3 now. So example 1 was talking about misinterpretation. Example 2 was about not making any sense. Example 3 is what I see you guys make a lot of mistakes on, and that's the calculations are incorrect. Okay? So for example, if you were to multiply 2 times 30 and you said the answer was 75, your calculation is incorrect. That is the most common mistake that I see in your homework. You guys make a very simple error, like you divide and you get the wrong answer, right? Or you add something up and you forget to carry it, or whatever it may be. But obviously that small mistake ends up in a bigger mistake and the incorrect answer, right? So if we look at example 3, Luis made 3 different yogurt parfaits. Okay, so 3 parfaits. In 1/4 of an hour. Okay, in a quarter hour. He spent the same amount of time making each parfait. How long did it take him to make 1 parfait? So we want to know how much time 1 parfait took. Okay? He says that he spent 3/4 of an hour making each parfait. Now, does that answer make sense? No, it is unreasonable. I mean, here, what does it say? He spent how much? What's the total amount of time that he spent? 1/4 hour. Then how can he use a fraction that's greater than what he did? Does that make sense at all? No. He spent 1/4 hour making all of them, so how can he have 3/4 of an hour, which is greater than 1/4, making them, right? So what do you think Luis did to find out the answer? Where did Luis go wrong? Richard?
He just times the
Right.
3 parfaits into the 1/4 hour.
Right. He just did 3 times 1/4 and said, hey, my answer is 3/4 of an hour, right? Makes sense. Why not? I take the 2 numbers, multiply them together to find out what the time it took. Well, no, that's not what you want. You want how much each of them. So what should he have done?
Divide.
What should he have done, Sahith?
He should have used division.
Right. So he should have divided 1/4 into what?
3.
Yeah. 1/4 divided by 3, which then becomes 1/4 times 1/3, which equals 1/12 of an hour. So each parfait took 1/12 of an hour. Okay, so let's look at number 1 on 241. So we're going to solve using the ask yourself questions. And tell whether the statement in blue is reasonable or unreasonable, and then explain your answer. Denny bought 2/3 of a pound of mushroom. All right, so we have 2/3 pound of mushroom, and he divided the mushrooms equally amongst 4 pizzas. So amongst the 4 pizzas, he wanted to divide them up. Okay? So in blue, the statement says that means he put 1/3 pound of mushrooms on each pizza. Okay? So that means he put 1/3 pound of mushrooms on pizza. Okay. Okay. So if that's the case, well, let's look at the answer. Is it a reasonable answer or not? Okay, why is it unreasonable for 1/3 pound to be the answer? Aviv.
Because he only has 2/3, and 1/3 is two. 1/3 is two-thirds, pretty much. So, and he has 4 pizzas to divide it on. So
You wouldn't have.
He would have negative. He would have
Not enough.
not enough for each pizza.
Right, exactly. Because if you think about it, here's 1 pizza, 2 pizza, 3 pizzas, 4 pizzas, right? And he has a total of 2/3 pound, but he says he put 1/3 on each of them. Okay? If he did that, how much would he have altogether? 1 1/3, right? The total would equal 1 1/3 pounds. But how much does he have?
2/3.
All he has is 2/3. He does not have enough. He has only enough for 1 pizza, 2 pizza. But he has how many pizzas? 4, right? So it's unreasonable, right? 1/3 is half of that, and he needs to distribute it amongst 4 pizzas, not 2.